UFC 272. We got a giant fight card on the horizon taking place this upcoming Saturday. Now, we did lose two significant fights on this fight card, but when it comes down to it, this fight card is just so stacked, it doesn't really matter. Of course, Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling set to face off just a few weeks away anyway. But unfortunately, we did lose Rafael Fiziev versus Rafael Dos Anjos. There's some rumors rumbling of Islam Makhachev possibly stepping in. We'll see how that plays out. Maybe Renato Moicano steps in. Unfortunately, we don't have any news on that right now. But what I could tell you is that we have a great show lined up, and we're going to jump right into it. Let's go.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC 272. We have the main event grudge match. Friends turned enemies. Colby Covington taking on Jorge Masvidal. You guys already know the story. I won't bore you with all the details on how these guys were once friends and now they want to pummel each other. We get it. And listen, I'm not bashing the fact that story's been pushed in our face nonstop because I like it. I love the story going into this fight. But I do want to dissect this fight more so from a strategic standpoint and how these guys match up, because I think it's a very, very interesting matchup. Of course, that will be the last fight that we get into here today. It's the main event. Now, when we take a look throughout this fight card, we talked about some of those bigger fights that fell through, the Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling fight. But just recently, Rafael Dos Anjos and Rafael Fiziev, that fight did fall apart. Unfortunately, Rafael Fiziev did test positive for COVID. Said he had one of the best training camps that he's ever had. I'm definitely a little upset that we're not going to see that fight take place. I'm a big fan of Fiziev's, so a little bit disappointed there. But there's been some rumors that potentially Islam Makhachev steps in, or a guy like Renato Moicano. I think the UFC is going to find somebody to step in and take on RDA, and you know RDA's game to take anybody on at any given time. I even heard some rumors about Paul Felder saying that he would love a rematch against RDA there. So I don't know if that's really what Paul wants, though. Other notable fights throughout this card, man. Bryce Mitchell, a star in the making, taking on one of the best strikers to ever do it, Edson Barboza. Holland's always a fun watch, especially in a matchup against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Hardy, a guy a lot of you love to hate on, polarizing name in the game. I mean, I could really touch upon all these fights. I'm very excited for a lot of these fights. Here's a sleeper fight for you. Marina Moroz taking on Mariya Agapova. This is a grudge match. I just made a little post about this over on my IG. If you guys didn't know, this is a grudge match. They have a little bit of a beef from when they trained over at American Top Team. So I'm excited for that fight as well. And just all the way to the bottom of the card. I mean, right now, as of right now, the first fight on the card is a very, very entertaining light heavyweight matchup of Dustin Jacoby versus Michel Oliasejczak. That's a fight that I love. I don't know how that's the first fight of the night. I guess it's a stacked card. So now, it was another profitable event this past weekend. We go 2 for 3, and the one bet that I lost was a very small 1.5 unit play on an underdog. So we'll be getting to that here in a second. Of course, you guys know I'm always excited to talk about our profitable events. We've now hit 6 of our last 7 plays dating back to the last 2 cards. The year has already started off in a profitable way. You'll be seeing many posts based on my exact numbers coming up on my Instagram here very shortly. So make sure you're following me on IG. I'd appreciate it if you guys can all go give me a follow over there. And that is MMA Fortune Teller _ All right, MMA Fortune Teller _ I'd appreciate if you guys go give me a follow. Let's go hit that 10K mile marker. And what else? Hit that subscribe button, like this video. Like I said, we got a great show lined up, and we're going to start things off by taking a look back into last week's card. Islam Makhachev, we just talked about him. He just went in there and dismantled Bobby Green, but Bobby Green did take that fight on short notice, but I think we all knew he wasn't winning that fight regardless. But well, I shouldn't say that. He had an avenue for victory, but he wasn't going to be able to keep that fight on the feet. If he could have kept it on the feet, we'll talk about that in a second. So the first fight of the night, this was a loss for me. This was the play I'm talking about. I had a 1.5 unit play on Victor Altamirano to defeat Carlos Hernandez. I think that this fight could have went anyway. I truly believe that if the fight went to Victor or Carlos, you couldn't really argue one way or another. It was an extremely close fight. I do believe that if Victor didn't get taken down in that first round, at the very end of the first round, he wins this fight easily, because then he was winning the first round hands down. I had him winning the second round hands down. It was that third round where he slowed down in that last minute or two, and Carlos landed some nice shots there. So it really came down to how you scored that takedown in the first round that Hernandez got after Victor was getting the better of the striking. Victor's line went all the way up to a plus 150 right before the fight. So again, it was a 1.5 unit play for me. My one loss on the card, I'll take it. And again, if you guys want to see these plays now, you guys follow me on Instagram. I had it posted in my story. Now I do post my losses in the story, and you'll see my winnings posted in the feed there, which we'll be getting to here in a second, because we bounced right back with a victory, a 2-unit play on Ramiz Brahimaj to finish Michael Gilmore. Now, this was a play. If you guys really dissected this fight here, you guys should have been all over this play. I want to brush upon some of the details going into this fight. And you could have got this play at minus 135, actually, the morning of the fight. And then it actually closed on some books at minus 180. So a lot of action moving around. I would like to say maybe the teller had something to do with that. Who knows? But here's the deal with this fight. Ramiz has finished every single one of his victories. Michael Gilmore has been finishing every single one of his losses. You guys know I've been saying this. I hate to be hard on the guy, but Michael Gilmore is not a UFC caliber fighter. He's gotten these opportunities based on the fact that he sacrificed his job to be a replacement on The Ultimate Fighter. And you know Dana White and the UFC brass love that move, and they're giving him multiple opportunities here. But that should be his last opportunity. Hopefully something works out from somewhere else. But he's not a UFC caliber fighter, and I don't honestly feel that he ever will be, if I'm being honest. I just don't think he has the skills. He's not like he's some young fighter that can grow and develop. He's not that young. And Ramiz Brahimaj is an underrated fighter, a little bit of a head case at times, but a guy that has some really, really talented grappling. And this was a bad matchup for Michael Gilmore. And I probably should have went after the submission prop, but I was worried that maybe he flattened Gilmore out and maybe pounded him out or something like that. But either way, I knew he was not losing this fight. And it would have been a great leg also if you guys wanted to parlay that there. Jonathan Martinez gets the victory over Alejandro Perez. Did get dropped at the end of that one round, but overall looked very, very swift on the feet. Terrence McKinney gets the rear naked choke off over Faraz Zaim. Now, Terrence McKinney's going in there and finishing guys left and right very, very quickly. This was a little bit more of an impressive fight for him, in my opinion, because now he's showing elements of the grappling as well. And, you guys know I did pick Zaim to win the fight. No action here. I thought it was a very close fight. I'm not going to completely turn my back on Faraz Zaim right now. I think that was a fight where he made a little bit of a mistake and he got capitalized on, but I think he's a very talented fighter. He showed some growth with his grappling. We know he's a very lengthy, talented striker. Terrence McKinney might just be the truth, so we'll keep an eye on him. Josiane Nunez takes out Ramona Pascual. Excellent performance by Nunez. She shows that she hits like a real Nunez-type fighter, almost having that Amanda Nunez-type power in there. This is a girl that I really like. Crazy reach for her frame. She's going to give a lot of gross problems. And, fighting over in the featherweight division, there's some girls I would like to see her matched up with. Believe that. Here we go. Ignacio Bahamendez. This was a play that I hesitated on. Didn't lock in. I was very close to locking him in right around minus 205, 210. Hesitated, passed on this play. Was kicking myself a little bit there. But I kind of respect the fact that Zhu Rong is still very young and he has some promise. I stayed away from it. Made a little bit of money on it, of course. You guys know the deal. I bet on every fight, but no significant amount. No official play locked in. All right. Then we had Arman Petrosian, who took out Gregory Rodriguez. What were your guys' thoughts on this decision? I thought Gregory won this fight. I thought he landed some of the heavier shots, had the takedowns, and I thought he did enough to win the fight. It was a close fight. Arman Petrosian gets the nod there. Did you guys agree with that split decision? Because we're going to be talking about some questionable decisions throughout this card. Let me know what you guys think about the close fights there. All right, this was a fight. You guys know I was very, very excited for this fight, and this was my third and final play of the card. Arman Tsarukyan gets the finish over Joel Alvarez. We'll jump over to the play that we locked in here. Jumped on this nice and early, grabbed it at minus 225. Some of you guys may have thought that this was a fight you weren't getting real good value on Arman Tsarukyan at this range because we had a lot of respect for Joel Alvarez. And you guys know I gave a lot of respect off as we broke down this fight. But if you guys weren't reading into how I felt and where I was going with this fight, Arman Tsarukyan's on another level. Both these guys are excellent strikers. Alvarez has some really good jiu-jitsu to go along with the long frame, but Tsarukyan is a guy that's just a tank of a man. He's built up, and it's his wrestling. It's his grappling and wrestling that's just it's the X factor that takes him to that next level. We saw the performance that he put on against Islam Makhachev at only 22 years old, took that fight on short notice, goes in there and gives Islam one of the toughest fights that he's ever had. I mean, that right there should have gave you the hint that this guy is legit. And I want to see that rematch with him and Islam. It's a completely different fight right now. Give him a full camp. Now he's 25 years old. He's turning into a man here in front of our eyes. Islam better watch out. I think Arman Tsarukyan has redemption set against Islam. And I love Arman's personality. This guy is all business. This guy is not one that messes around. I'm telling you guys right now, keep an eye on Arman Tsarukyan to be a guy that does fight for gold in the next year or two, next two to 3 years. Even if he drops one fight, he's going to be in the mix in the next 3-4 years fighting for that gold. I'm telling you guys right now. We're talking about legit talent. And that was a 4.5 unit play. And you guys saw what happened. I mean, he dropped the hammer, one of the nastiest elbows we've seen, split Alvarez open. I mean, that was the most blood we've seen in the octagon in a couple months, I think. That was really a nasty cut he opened up. And so again, that solidified a profitable night there. So we were very happy to have that. Again, that's back-to-back profitable events. We're doing our thing over here. I enjoyed that in a major way. Now, we talked about those questionable decisions. Priscilla Cachoeira takes out Ji Yeon Kim in a unanimous decision. I thought that Kim won the first 2 rounds. So this one was a little bit questionable. I love the fact that Priscilla was bringing the heat. Even in the 3rd round, landed a big shot. I love her tenacity, and I like her. I like her as a fighter, but I think Kim won that fight. What'd you guys think about that? Wellington Turman looked like he was on his way to lose that fight. Looked good in the beginning, but then Serkinov started to step it up a little bit with the grappling and then fell right into an armbar. Great to see Turman showing different elements of his game. He's working with Glover Teixeira. He's still very young. This is a guy that you can't turn the page on. Turman's still very young, training with a guy in Glover who's become the best version of himself all the way now, as old as he is. Turman's a guy that who knows where he could take his career to. I'm telling you guys right now. I'm not saying he's going to be fighting for a belt or anything, but Turman's a guy that maybe a couple things could have went against him and he might not even be fighting in the UFC. So now he's starting to get his legs under him. And then that takes us to the main event. Islam Makhachev goes in there and just turns Bobby Green into chopped meat there. Goes in, just is relentless with the pressure, gets the takedown, and then just big shout out to Bobby though, man. Bobby stepped in on short notice and he took the strikes. He jumped right back up after the referee stopped it, but the ref had to stop the fight. And Islam, did you see the back muscles on him? Looked like a gorilla, man. This guy is bringing some real grappling and strength into the octagon. I'm very excited to see him matched up with a few guys towards the top of the division. It's going to be happening soon here. I don't know. Maybe he takes the RDA fight. I guess we would want to see that. But that's gonna wrap up the recap of UFC Fight Night. Islam Makhachev versus Bobby Green. I believe that was UFC Vegas 49. I believe it was. And now we move forward to the upcoming UFC 272 fight card. I'm very excited for it. Let's get into it. Ľudovít Klein taking on King Cage Devontae Smith. Both these fighters remind me of each other in a sense. Both of these fighters at one point in time were pretty hyped up and have dropped the ball a little bit in some fights, right? Losing 2 fights as of recently for both fighters. Devontae Smith, Kama Worthy flattened him out. Let's not forget that, and this is a guy in Devontae Smith who has gone into a lot of his fights as a pretty hefty favorite. People really respect his game. We saw him on Dana White's Contender Series. He got a nasty finish, stuffing the takedown against the cage, dropping elbows, throws very heavy leg kicks. He's a great athlete. Gets knocked out by Kama, bounces back with that knockout victory over Justin James, or the TKO victory, and then gets knocked out in his last fight against Jamie Mullarkey. So to an extent, you could say he's been a little bit of a letdown throughout his UFC career. I mean, he's in those spots. He was favored since in those spots too. So we also know he got knocked out by John Gunther. That was a long time ago now, but still, that's if you guys remember John Gunther, that's that wild Apaka shaven grappler from the Ultimate Fighter. That was a pretty bad blemish on his career, but started to string off a lot of victories. And we talked about the power that he carries, knockout victories over Justin Edwards, Joseph Lowry, that was on Dana White's Contender Series, Julian Erosa, might have been his biggest victory of his career, and then Dong Hyun Ma, the Korean. And we'll be talking about Jamie Mullarkey here in a little bit, but these two losses here as of recently, you have to kind of wonder about the chin and the striking defense, because Ľudovít Klein is a guy that shows that he has power. He has big time power, and we'll talk about his letdown so far in his career. He started off his UFC stint with a beautiful finish over Shane Young. That was a head kick knockout that was almost partially blocked, but it just carried so much power that it just it busted right through the guard and kind of shook up Shane Young's rattled his brain through the guard and just dropped him, and Klein followed up with some shots and finished the fight. He came into that fight looking like just a wrecking machine. He's jacked up, carries some serious power. But then we watch him in his last two fights, and you start to see the fights play out a little bit longer. You see a little bit more what he's about. And, the loss to Mike Trezano, and then the loss recently to Nate Landwehr, you start to see that he's a guy doesn't have the best cardio. As we know, he's very muscle bound, so that's something that's not the best thing. I shouldn't say that, but for certain guys, you know what I mean? You got to keep an eye on that. His cardio is not the best. He might be putting a little bit too much effort into the weights. He needs to put a little bit more time into the treadmill or into the street, hit some miles there. Definitely slows down in his fights. And then also when it comes to his striking, although he has some great torque and some great power, he's a little bit too tight with his striking. You see him a little bit hesitant. It looks like he's almost squeezing his hands and his arms. He's a little bit tight. He's too tight. He needs to loosen up with his striking, and let his combos go. Now he is 27 years old. There's definitely room for growth. I mean, he's not a finished or polished product. Neither is Smith. But you know what? I think that Smith is going to be the guy that is a little bit lighter on his feet. There's a little bit more athletic in there, and I expect Smith to land some solid shots here. I think I'm going to edge Smith here. I'll let you guys know that right now. I edge Smith to win this fight. Smith is going to have, we talk about a nice reach advantage. We talked about that in the last fight. How about in this fight? Another 4-inch reach advantage for Devontae Smith. He's 2 inches taller. Devontae Smith is a guy that comes in phenomenal shape. We take a look at him as of recently. He's definitely looking to be very fit going into this fight. And let's see, we pull something up on him. What we got over here? We see him hitting some pad work, and he's over. See him hitting the pads real quick. But a guy that's just a little bit more of a natural striker. He's a little bit looser with his striking. I think that he gets the better of the exchanges, in my opinion. And the longer the fight goes on, I think it favors him a little bit more so. Now, I must say, and real quick, I just wanted to show you what he's looking like going into this fight. I don't know why I was all scrolled down there. Looking to be in phenomenal shape, which is nothing new. But training over in Denver, Colorado. He's over at Factory X, which is a very, very solid gym. I do believe he's over at Factory X. But the X Factor here, though, speaking of Factory X, Factory X Muay Thai. The X Factor here is he's been knocked out in 2 of his last 3 fights, and Ľudovít Klein does carry power. So although I talked about him being a little bit tight with the striking and whatnot, when he corks that head kick or throws a heavy shot with his hand, he can definitely put Smith out. So you gotta take note of that there. We'll take a look at the live line here, and we got Devontae Smith right around a -190. With the comeback on Klein. I don't know why they're calling him Ľudovít. It's a little rude of them to do that, but they're calling him Ľudovít. For some reason, Best Fight Odds is messing with the name sometimes, but basically the same odds as the last fight. We're talking about a comeback of a +160. This is a fight, though, Maybe you see some value on Klein to try to get a knockout. Maybe, in fact, you want to target a knockout victory with a prop bet. Or maybe Klein starts to sharpen some things up. But also keep in mind that he looked very bad in his last fight against Nate Landwehr, showing to have some holes in his game down on the mat as well. Getting submitted by Nate, and Nate's guy I'm not really too high on either. So that wasn't a good performance. I like Devontae Smith to win this fight, and I think the line's pretty accurate. I think it's a decently accurate line there. Timbo Elliott taking on a tough Dagestani Tagir Ulanbekov, a guy that's been very, very hyped up, and don't be surprised that he's coming into this fight as a favorite. That's been the trend throughout his career. Now we're going to talk about his last fight here in a second, because he was a guy that really came into that fight as a hefty favorite, but didn't really perform like it. And I had some action tied in with him, and trust me, I was watching that fight very, very closely. I love that fight card. That was an excellent fight card for me. That was the fight card where I believe Khamzat fight on that. Yeah, that was the fight that Khamzat choked out the Leech there. We were rolling with the favorites all throughout that card, and they delivered in a major way. We had a bunch of official plays all mixed up with the Dagestani boys. Now, I do have some dogs coming through for you guys throughout this card, so be patient here. But now, in this fight here, we're going to talk about Tagir's last performance against Alan Nascimento. Now, I think that was a little bit of a mix of maybe Tagir needing to work on some things. This is a guy that's uber confident. He goes in, he expects to steamroll all his opponents, but maybe he needs to come down to earth a little bit and realize that he's in the UFC, he's in the big show, needs to be a little bit more patient with the strategy. Sometimes he tries to force things a little bit, and you could see, like in the last fight with Nascimento, he forced things a few times, and we saw Nascimento kind of reverse or was able to get out of some positions there. But overall, I mean, if you like a fighter that fights for your money, and if you like a fighter that's, like I said, very confident, it's going to be coming in to rip his opponent down and just be going for the finish nonstop. Tagir Ulanbekov is that type of fighter. And I mean, and you guys know, I don't need to tell you, the Dagestani boys are just, they all kind of have that type of fighting style and personality. I mean, they go in to wreak havoc, and just because Ulanbekov's fighting down at the flyweight division doesn't mean that it changes. He's the guy that's really gonna try to hold the crown for the Dagestani fighters in this division. Now, when it comes to Tim Elliott, man, Tim Elliott, you see him here with his wife, also UFC fighter Gina Mazzani. Tim Elliott is just a game opponent. We remember back in the day, he gave Demetrius Johnson one of his biggest tests. Tim's awkward on the feet with the striking. He's a guy that's willing to mix it up in all types of scrambles down in the mat. If you leave your neck out there, he could snag it up. He could choke you out. I mean, this guy is very confident in his own right as well. I mean, this guy's coming to bring the fight. Now, I will say this. We talked about Ulanbekov forcing things a little bit at some times and leaving some holes open. Tim Elliott's may be the king of that in all of the UFC. He might be the king of that type of thing. Sometimes he really forces stuff. He just tries to push for takedowns and really tries to bring the fight. He sticks his neck in there all the time, or he'll leave an arm there. He's very susceptible to being finished, in my opinion, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ulanbekov pulls off some type of choke, some type of guillotine choke or something like that. On the feet, we know Ulanbekov's going to have a slight reach advantage, a 3-inch reach advantage, even though they're both coming in at 5'7". Tagir a little bit more rangy, a little bit more wiry. Tagir Ulanbekov is a guy that I've been very high on, and I'm not going to turn my back on him just because of that last performance. He still did come through, and at the end of the day, I think that Alan Nascimento is a fighter that is very much underrated. I think that he's a fighter that a lot of you guys need to put on your radar. I think he's a very game opponent. Victory over Bruno Silva before that. Bruno Silva, and that was in his UFC debut. Bruno Silva is a big time fighter. He's another guy that's just gliding under the radar. You're going to start to see him making more and more noise. So I like the level of competition in the first two fights. In my opinion, I think Alan Nascimento and Bruno Silva I think they're a little bit of a step above Tim Elliott at this point in time. I know that might be a little bit of a bold assessment. Tim Elliott has a little bit more of a known name, but I mean, 17-12, losses in 4 of his last 6 fights. I mean, fighting high level competition. Got to give him that. Losses to Matheus Nicolai, Brandon Royval, Askar Askarov, Davison Figueiredo. In the Ben Wynn fight, talk about sticking your head in there. That was one of the one of the examples I was talking about. I don't even think Ben wins fights in the UFC anymore. He doesn't. And that was a fight where Tim just literally just gave him the choke. It was over in seconds. But we've seen him choked a couple times here against Brandon Royval, Davison Figueiredo. So keep an eye on Ulanbekov to possibly pull off a choke here. Very talented grappler. Of course, I'm picking Ulanbekov to win this fight. And we're talking about right now a line that's right around minus 255, up to the minus 265 range. Do you feel like that line's a little bit too high? It's a flyweight bout here. Timothy Elliott, as we see here. I mean, Tim Elliott brings the fight. If Tim Elliott can avoid that choke and maybe we see these scrambles start to play out, maybe Elliott can put Ulanbekov in some danger or kind of make it look good for the judges, get some rounds going. He's awkward on the feet. But at the end of the day, I like the fact that Ulanbekov is extremely confident in himself. Like I said, he's going to be walking forward. He's going to be throwing elbows, awkward strikes. He's going to be coming forward with full steam ahead. And I think Tagir handles business. Do you want to parlay him here? I think the fight will play out relatively close, but at the end of the day, Ulanbekov is going to get the job done. So depending how you feel about that, Tagir Ulanbekov to win that fight. So within the last two cards, we hit 6 of our 7 plays. We were coming off an amazing year last year. You guys already know. I did a whole video. You guys know the amount of units we profited from last year. Well, 2022, we're already up in the green. We're having a great start to the year. Going to have all my details on the numbers we've been putting out, but we're doing very, very well. If you guys are looking to work with me for this big-time UFC fight card here, do not hesitate to reach out to me. All my contact information is there below. We got my email, mmafortuneteller@gmail.com. You got my Instagram, my Twitter, all that. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll give you guys my pricing, and I'd love to work with you guys. What do we have here? Brian Kelleher matched up with Umar Nurmagomedov. You guys know I'm licking my chops over here. Brian Kelleher is a guy that's been handed a lot of fights that were favorable for him. I think that he's had, I guess I will say that he's had more of an easier road throughout the UFC. He's a guy that stepped in on short notice. The UFC has rewarded him for that. He's had some gimme fights. You take a look at, I don't want to say Kevin Kroom. I mean, yeah, that's a lower level fighter. Domingo Pilarte, that's a lower level fighter. Ray Rodriguez, that was a very lower level fighter, not even a UFC caliber fighter. I mean, we could run it back too. Let me see real quick. Hunter Azure, Odie Osborne. I mean, he's been fighting lower level fighters for the most part. I mean, he's also been in there with some tough guys. I mean, you could definitely throw some names that he's been in there with that are also legitimate fighters. But he's definitely, as of recently, had some handouts to an extent. That ain't the case here. And you guys know my situation with Kelleher. We joke about it all the time. I'm looking for Umar to go in there and take care of business against Kelleher. And that's exactly what I feel is going to happen here. Umar is just a fighter that's on a different level. Only 26 years old and is slowly turning into a man. The cousin of Khabib. I mean, this kid right here, completely well-rounded, but the grappling is just ridiculous. And you see him getting the wrestling work in over here with Cody Garbrandt over at the UFC PI. I love to see stuff like that. He's working on the striking too. He's becoming a very well-rounded fighter. I mean, this is just... I mean, we're talking about a blue-chip prospect, a 5-star prospect. I mean, this guy has a world of potential. I'm very happy that we're able to see him fighting over in the UFC. I know he started his career out, I believe, over in PFL, if I remember correctly. And... Actually, let me pull that up real quick. Take a look at what he's been doing as of recently. And, yeah, he did have a fight over in PFL, and that was against Saidi Kakramanov, a fighter he's a solid fighter. He's fighting in the UFC right now. That was a very, 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 it was a closely contested matchup. It was a very high-level fight for what it was at the time, especially in 2018. He was very young in that fight, going in there, taking dudes out, submitted Taras Gratskiv by rear naked choke, over Brian Gonzalez, rear naked choke over Sergey Morozov. Sergey Morozov is a skilled fighter. I know that he got finished in his last fight, but he's a guy, he looked good towards the beginning of that fight, and he's a guy that, he is a legit fighter. So don't get it twisted there. That's a big time victory. Brian Kelleher, in my opinion, is a step down here. however you want to look at it, doesn't matter though. Kelleher is a step down compared to Umar, and he's gonna have his hands full. You know, the Kelleher team, that ain't gonna be happening against a guy like Umar. He will easily defend that. He'll get on top position if they want to go down to the mat, and I think that Nurmagomedov will work his way into a potential choke in his own right, or will just dominate down there on the feet. Umar's a lot more fluid. He's a little bit more of a new age type of striker, whereas Kelleher is going to be trying to whip some leg kicks and try to throw a couple power punches. It's not going to be enough. I'm very, very excited to see Umar's career progress in front of our eyes. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage to play around with Umar, or excuse me, to play around with Kelleher from the outside. And then that's what's going to be going on here. And listen, again, I'm not trying to act like I'm some type of savant and some type of know-it-all, but I'm just saying I want to. There's certain guys that I like to attach my name towards, or attach my name to, and Umar Nurmagomedov is a guy that I will attach my name to. That's going to be wreaking havoc in this division. He's going to be working his way towards the top and potentially fighting for the gold. I feel that. I know that seems like just a cliche thing. He has the last name Nurmagomedov. It's not just that. It's I like what I'm seeing, and I know what I'm looking at when you watch him fight. This is a guy that has the same type of skill set and the same type of well-roundedness of these guys like Islam Makhachev, Khabib. These guys, they can strike. People don't realize they can strike too, but when it comes down to it, the bread and butter, their type of grappling, it's even a different type of grappling. It's not just some American type of Division I wrestler. I mean, these guys really know how to grapple, man. They mix it all in so well, and it just gives guys a completely different type of issue. And just the level of strength that these guys have. I mean, that's a whole nother thing too. These guys have some different type of strength going on with their grappling. And I want to see Umar implement some of that, because Kelleher is not an easy guy really just to put on his back and manhandle down there. And I want to see some of that. I want to see Umar get him down there and put him in a rear naked choke. I'd be very impressed to see that. Now, keep in mind, again, only 26 years old, and he just turned 26. All right, he was really only just 25. All right, so just turned 26 years old, and he's going to celebrate with hopefully a rear naked choke over Kelleher. We take a look at the live line. It's up there. It's as high as minus 720 at the moment over at DraftKings. Opened up at minus 600. Action coming in on him. Don't be surprised if you see it right around minus 750, something high like that. And again, people respect Kelleher. They know he has power in his hands. He's durable. He can pull out a sub, but I think people just they feel Umar's going to win this fight, and I think people will be sliding Umar into a lot of parlays, and you might see that line right around that range I'm talking about there. But Umar Nurmagomedov to win the fight. We got a grudge match here. Marina Moroz taking on Mariya Agapova. Like I said, I had a little post about this on my Instagram. I had a little short story under the picture there. Basically, if you guys are not familiar with the situation, but Agapova is a girl that was kicked out of American Top Team. There was a lot of rumors of her being a little bit of a nutcase, taking drugs and whatnot, being a little bit of a loose wire, and now she's out of there. Mariana Moroz, a girl that, from the looks of it, gets along with all the girls over at American Top Team constantly, in the big photo shoots with all the girls. Seems to be a classy girl. Although she does have an OnlyFans, so I don't know how you guys feel about that, but at least as far as the way she talks and represents herself, for the most part, I'm a fan of hers, and she's a fun fighter to watch too. She is a fun fighter to watch. She's very well rounded. She's an American Top Team product, like I said. This is a girl that does have a lot of potential. She's a solid fighter, and I don't know exactly what the issue was with her and Agapova, but I do expect some real emotion to be flowing in this fight, because I know for a fact that some of the words that were said, these women are not going to be happy with each other. When they start to get to the stare downs, the weigh-ins and all that, and when they get to fight night, this is a fight that there's going to be some real bad blood flowing, and I think that could actually have a little bit of an effect on this fight. Agapova is a girl. We saw her come in a little bit too emotional and a little bit too crazy in her fight against Shayna Dobson, and she blew her load. She gassed out, and she eventually got smashed in that fight. She was so tired she couldn't even really continue to implement her fighting style. She really she gassed out. The thing I like about what I saw from her in her next fight was against Sabina Mazo. We saw a completely different style in her fighting style. She was very patient. She was very cerebral. And Mariya Agapova is a girl that has some serious pop on her punches. All right, when you break down tape on her, she can do some things in there that not a lot of fighters can do. All right, if you guys catch my drift, she's a fighter that has some serious power. When you come into her range and she hits you with one of those counter hooks, like she looked in her last fight as she was waiting back and Sabina Mazo was coming in, she was hitting her hard. You know, she's a fighter that has that real pop, and not a lot of female fighters have that real pop. And in that Mazo fight, she eventually got the rear naked choke. But check this out. That wasn't just a rear naked choke victory. That was basically a knockout. If you guys remember how that played out, Agapova clipped her with a counter right as she came in. I believe it was a right, and dropped Mazo immediately, and then just leached on the back of her neck and choked her out. So really, in my opinion, that was more of a knockout or TKO victory. She just chose to get that submission. She could have easily just grabbed her back, flattened her out, and pounded her out. Okay, we're talking about some serious power here. Marina Moroz is lacking in power. She's a girl that puts out some good volume. She has really good cardio, and she's tough. She'll come forward. Sometimes she throws out some air punches. If you guys catch my drift, you know she's walking forward. She's acting like she's trying to bring it to you. But a lot of those punches are just, you know, hitting air. Whereas Agapova really looks to touch your chin and touch your jawline. If I see an avenue for Moroz, I think that Moroz has to try to make this, you know, a barn burner type of fight. And I think that she better hope that Agapova starts to gas a little bit, like in that Dobson fight, and Moroz can maybe hit her with a reversal down in the mat. Something wild could happen, and she could put her into a dangerous situation and try to pull off the victory there, or score some points, take some rounds. Because I think that if Agapova comes into this fight just like she did in the last fight, and she's looking for the counter attack, she's circling against the fence, she's stuffing takedowns, and as Moroz comes in, she's landing big shots on her. I think she's gonna bloody her up. She could hurt her. She's gonna be a step ahead there, in my opinion. And this was a fight, I'll be honest with you guys, and I got some dogs coming to you, so stick with me. This was a fight that I really did want to pick the dog here. At first, I was almost leaning towards that way. You guys know what's going on over you know, in Ukraine and all that, and obviously Moroz being a Ukrainian fighter, she's going to be coming into this fight with a heavy heart. All right, so that is an X factor. I'm sure. Forget about it. You know, we got the rival between these ladies, but what's going on in her homeland? This girl's coming into this fight on a whole different level, and I would love to see her win this fight. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm rooting for her to win this fight. I want her to win this fight, but this isn't going to be one of my dog picks. Stick with me. I got a couple dog picks coming at you. This isn't going to be it, because when you break down the tape, yes, there's that one avenue we talked about, but for the most part, Agapova is just the higher level fighter. And I think that she's the fighter that actually has some legitimate talent, and she could be a legitimate threat in the division. That loss to Dobson was a learning experience. And like I said, the way she bounced back in the next fight and she implemented change in her game. So she's not just the athletic freak, you know, the fighter with freakish ability. She's a fighter that's making cerebral changes in her game. She's making adjustments. And she's a fighter you want to keep an eye on. All right. She's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, even though she's an inch shorter here. She's only 24 years old. About to be 25. She's a girl you want to keep an eye on. I'm telling you guys, keep an eye on her. But Moroz has a possible avenue for a victory as well. We talked about it. At the end of the day, I got Agapova to win the fight. And she's a fighter, man, that really has that killer instinct in there, man. She's coming into this fight right around a 2-1 favorite. The comeback on Moroz right around plus 170. From a betting perspective, I feel like there's more value on Moroz, no question about it. You know, these types of fights, they may play out. They could play out close. There's a lot of things going on here. Like I said, a lot of emotional type stuff. And Moroz is a girl that has good cardio. She continues to go forward. I could see her trying to you know, keep up the volume, push a high volume, score some points there. But again, if she can gas out Agapova and they have some wild exchanges, maybe she puts her in a vulnerable position like we saw in the Dobson fight with Agapova and Dobson. But at the end of the day, I got Agapova here. Nicholas Negumereanu taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. This is going to be a fun one, guys. This is a fight you don't want to miss. I think it's a little bit of a sleeper fight on the card. Kennedy Nzechukwu is a guy. His toughness cannot be questioned. We've seen him in there and some crazy battles where he's taken a lot of damage and just was chilling, taking shots to the dome. It looked like he was just sitting back on a recliner by the pool having a margarita, and then all of a sudden decided to drop the drink and start laying the hammer down. You guys know what fight I'm talking about, man. The Carlos Ulberg fight. That was a fight where he was getting teed off on, just kept walking forward, and then eventually just dropped it into fifth gear and just, you know, he finished Ulberg. What else? You know, the Danilo Marquez fight. That was a good performance by him. I got the nasty knockout there. Then he got finished in his last fight against Da Un Jung. Da Un Jung is a guy that's very high on my list right now of fighters that have some potential to do some damage in the division, and guys that are kind of being slept on. Very, very talented fighter. So, you know, maybe not the biggest blemish, but the thing you didn't like there is that Kennedy once again showed that he shells up at times, and he gives his opponents free time just to tee off on him. And in the light heavyweight division, that's something that's it's not a good thing, right? These are some big guys, and you're sitting there every time you're in a fight, you're giving your opponent ample time just to tee off and kind of. I don't know what's going on in his head. It's like he's trying to assess what's going on. He's trying to compute, you know, what they're doing to him, and then he looks to turn it up after. But when you do that, you're taking a risk of just being put out, like we saw in the Da Un Jung fight. You sit there and you're letting him tee off a little bit, and then okay, he's just gonna finish you. How about that? You get some of these guys that have that serious power, or they're placing their punches in the right spots. They're gonna hurt you. They're gonna finish you. And Nzechukwu was a guy that showed to have a granite chin, but listen. Again, I'll say it again, in the light heavyweight division, really in the UFC in general, you cannot take free shots on you cannot just be giving out free shots because you will fold. I love the jab that Nzechukwu pumps at times. We talked about the 83-inch reach when he has his fighters on the end of his jab. It's a big problem for a lot of guys. You see him over here with Ryan Spawn, Eric Anders, Uriah Hall. We're talking about some real top level talent over here. Chris Bird, you know, these guys over at Fortis MMA. We're talking about some real talent, and you see Nzechukwu, you know, the biggest guy out there, man, taller than Ryan Spawn. But he's a big boy, man. He's really a big boy. So he always brings that into his fights, and he's bringing that into this fight for sure. He's gonna have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's 5 inches taller. He's going to want to use his footwork and try to keep Nick on the end of his jab. Nick Negumereanu, we'll talk about him here for a second. Only 27 years old. We're seeing this guy grow in front of our eyes as well. Coming off a beautiful victory over Ike Villanueva. You guys know that was an official play of mine. Now, it was a little bit more of a fade on Ike Villanueva. You guys know that was another guy similar to Michael Gilmore. I feel that he's just not a UFC caliber fighter, and he had to hit the road, and that's what happened. But in that fight, Nick Negumereanu showed me that he's elevating his game. He's becoming a more well-rounded fighter. He's becoming a dangerous striker as well. I like his boxing. I like his hands. He's a tough dude, and he's a fighter that really has some solid talent. Had that split decision victory over Alexa Kamer, a decent fighter. He had the loss to Safarov. That was a fight I wasn't too crazy about, but I think he's learning from that. Again, that was 3 years ago, so at the time he was 24 years old, extremely young. That was his UFC debut. So, you know, let's be patient with him. You see him over here with the Hulk, Ian Kuti Laba, and he trains with a lot of killers over from that part of the world. Actually, when you see him, he's always rubbing shoulders with a lot of high level fighters. You see him over here with the Russian Maxim Grishin. You see him over here with the Polar Bear. We'll be talking about him in a little bit. Sergey Spivak, Inkuti Laba. I forgot his name here, but the Dagestani fighter. You know, he's brushing shoulders with big time talent. But more importantly, you take a look at him over here next to Sean Strickland, next to the Action Man, the guy that's been getting knockouts over everybody, and they're getting in some solid work. You better believe that. So you can expect to see growth in Nick Negumereanu's game, as we talked about. I'm going to be rolling with Nick Negumereanu to take this fight. I think that Kennedy Nzechukwu is a guy that's a little bit questionable on the feet at times. He gets away with it with his toughness. He gets away with it with his freakish frame. He's a hard guy to take down at times and whatnot too. He's so tall. It's like he has giant poles attached to his hips. You're trying to get him down, but the poles just keep poking into the dirt, and you can't flip the dummy. But you know, he's a guy that he has some weird X factors going for himself. But Nick Negumereanu is a guy that's rolling high right now with momentum. He's a guy that I expect to land some solid shots with his punches, and I think that he could outbox Kennedy a little bit here. He can push the pace for 3 rounds, and I'll take the dog here. We got to throw some dogs at you guys, otherwise you guys are going to be eating me up anyway. So we'll take Nick Negumereanu. Comeback on him is right around at plus 125 right now, with Kennedy and Nzechukwu coming in right around a minus 145 favorite. This should be a fun fight, so don't miss this fight. I'm telling you guys, I expect to see some action, potential knockout, something crazy going on in this fight. Now we got a fire fight lined up right here. Marina Rodriguez taking on Xiaonan Yan. Now don't turn your back on Xiaonan here. This is a girl that everybody was so high on, and then she dropped the ball in her last fight. She got finished in a devastating way against Carla Esparza. Big shout out to Carla, by the way. Still handling business these days. The inaugural UFC strawweight champion. A girl that really should go down in the Hall of Fame if we really want to go there anyway. But Xiaonan Yan got worked down on the mat. But she's a girl that has given a lot of fighters problems on the feet. She's a phenomenal fighter. She carries some serious power. You guys know I always like to use that reference of the buzzsaw when you come into someone's range and they hit you with those counters. Xiaonan Yan is that type of fighter. Those beautiful hooks, heavy hooks. If you come into her range, she'll crack you up. Take a look at the list of fighters that she has ran through before that loss, that disappointing loss. You know, back in the day, you know, Kaylin Curran, Viviane Pereira, Siri Kondo, but it's as of recently, Angela Hill, Karolina Kovacevic, and Claudia Gadelha. Those are solid victories. Now Carla pumped the brakes on that. She pumped the brakes on the momentum here. But now Xiaonan has a chance here to throw the train right back on the tracks. If she gets a victory over Marina Rodriguez, she goes right back to that same level that she was at. If not, she even goes a step above, really. Because Marina Rodriguez, she's one of the bigger names in the division right now. Everybody's talking about her. We know the performance that she put on against Amanda Ribas, where she got the knockout. That was a fight that really put her on the map. At that point in time, Amanda Ribas had all the momentum in the division. She was the girl everybody was talking about. She was going into all her fights as a big-time favorite. She's a girl that has big-time jiu-jitsu. She could strike. And Marina Rodriguez went in there and cracked her up. Rodriguez has some serious power in her hands. Her boxing is very legit. I think she can give anybody problems in the division one way or another. I do think that she has some things she needs to work on. Now, we saw in that fight against Amanda Ribas had success with the takedown early in that fight. I wish she would have stuck with it. She didn't, though. And, you know, Rodriguez needs to continue to work on her takedown defense and work on her grappling. I think that she's obviously doing that. But if she can keep the fight standing, good luck to a lot of the fighters in the division that are going to square off against her on the feet. And this is a perfect test to gauge where her striking's at, because Xiaonan Yan is a girl, like I said, I'm very high on her striking as well. I expect both these fighters to be willing to throw down on the feet, which makes this fight even more so, more exciting there. So I want to take a look at these fighters from their physical abilities. You know, Marina Rodriguez is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. She's an inch taller, a little bit more of a rangy opponent. She's actually 34 years old. Well, Xiaonan's 32, about to be 33. These aren't necessarily young girls in the fight game. They may very well be in the primes of their career, or right around it. So, I mean, this is a pinnacle fight for both of these fighters. How do I see this fight playing out? I gotta edge Marina Rodriguez in the feet right now. Her striking has just been looking phenomenal. I gotta give the slight edge to Marina Rodriguez there. I wonder where Xiaonan Yan's head's at after being finished in that devastating way in her last fight. I'm curious to see how confident she is going in there against a fighter in Marina Rodriguez that does not mess around. And I just think that slight reach advantage and that slightly longer frame that Marina Rodriguez has could give her a little bit of an advantage. I talked about the fact that Xiaonan Yan is a little bit of a counter fighter, and she throws these power hooks. She uses her footwork pretty well too. She tries to close the distance. She tries to get in on her opponents at times too. But when she lands, there's some legitimate power there. But I think that if Marina Rodriguez uses her kicks and uses her footwork properly, I think that she'll be the fighter that has a little bit more of an edge there on the feet, with that slight reach advantage, the slight leg reach advantage for her kicks. And if she could throw her punches, which I feel she does throw her punches also a little bit more straight, I give her that slight edge there when they're throwing down. But this is a fight. By no means do I expect Jan to be a pushover. I do believe that Jan is a girl that's a tough outing for anybody in the division, and especially when you're going into the fight pretty much expecting and planning on it being a stand-up type of fight. Jan is a girl that's going to be there throwing with you. Both these girls have great cardio. They're very fit. They're very professional as far as their skill set goes from that avenue. I mean, they're going to come prepared. You bet your boots that Xen and Jan is going to come prepared. She don't mess around. And I'm expecting after that loss that she just took, she probably will be in the best shape of her career and be more prepared than ever. That's actually exactly what I'm expecting. So we'll see how this fight plays out. I got to go with Marina Rodriguez, though. I have to. She's just been cracking on the feet. She's 15-1, 2 draws there. She's coming into this fight, though. We're going to get to the betting line now. She's coming into this fight as a pretty hefty favorite. And I think that it more so has to do with the fact that we talk stylistically. This is a fight that's expected to be taking place in the feet, and people are really high on the striking abilities that we've seen from Marina Rodriguez, especially with the power in her hands. And I think that you'll see lines on Marina Rodriguez be very different when she's fighting a girl that has wrestling and grappling capabilities. The people that are on to what's going on with these fighters and how they match up. Marina Rodriguez has to show a little bit more down there as far as being a complete fighter. And I'm going to pick Marina Rodriguez, as I kind of hinted here. But as from a betting perspective, I'm not really crazy about taking Marina Rodriguez at almost 3-1 odds against a fighter and Xan Yan, who is a very talented fighter. She's a very talented fighter, and I think she's going to be very motivated. And the value, in my opinion, is on Jan here. So if you're looking for more of a value play, I'm going to give you guys that. I'm not going to just throw you guys, oh yeah, Marina Rodriguez is the pick. I want to give you guys something going here. So maybe you take Marina Rodriguez by finish. Look for a little bit of a better line, or maybe you're taking Xen and Jan for a value play. You're taking the dog out for a walk. But I got Marina Rodriguez winning this fight, and I would say I wouldn't be shocked if she lands a big shot, if we see a nasty cut, some type of serious power being thrown by Marina Rodriguez, and you see it doing some damage there. It should be a fun fight. Jalin, the Tarantula Turner, taking on Jamie. You're full of Mullarkey. This is a fun fight, another fun fight in the card. That's why I was hyped up for this fight card here. Even fights where it's not necessarily the biggest names in the game, but people that know what they're looking at right here with a fight like this, you got two extremely talented strikers, two fighters that bring it. There's definitely potential for a finish here. In fact, I expect there to be a finish in this fight. This is a fight I'm leaning more so to not go the distance one way or another. We'll start off by talking about Jamie Mullarkey, right? Jamie Mullarkey coming off two phenomenal victories, knocked out Devontae Smith. We talked about him earlier. Mullarkey really put it on him there. And then he also knocked out Kama Worthy. The thing I've noticed about Mullarkey, man, when you break down tape on him, besides the fact that he does bleach his eyebrows, which it's different. It's different right now. You're not seeing a lot of fighters do that. But besides the fact that he bleaches his eyebrows, he's a fighter that is very precise with his striking. He's a pinpoint type of puncher. If you look at the placement on his shots on those finishes, I mean, he's really landing them nicely. So I am impressed with the boxing that he's put out there. He's a very scrappy and tough fighter. Again, we talk about the two victories that he just had, but before that, he did have losses to Faraz Zaim. That was a fight that Zaim actually flashed down on the mat with. I talked about Zaim showing some skills down on the mat. A lot of people were like, what are you talking about? If you break down the film on this Mullarkey versus Zaim fight, you'll see that Faraz Zaim is working on some things down there, even though he just got finished by Terrence McKinney down on the mat. I mean, don't let one fight really define who you are as a fighter. Like I said, I expect Zaim to be back with the vengeance. Before that, he loses to Brad Riddell. Brad Riddell, one of the more dangerous fighters in the division, an excellent striker, goes to a decision with him. In there with some solid talent. and really getting things going as of recently in the last 2 fights. Only 27 years old. Jalin Turner, we'll talk about him, and this guy has a freakish frame for the division. He's 6'3" with a 75.5-inch reach. But keep in mind, Mullarkey has a 74-inch reach. So also a very lengthy fighter for the division here in the lightweight division. I love this matchup right now. For where both of these fighters are, I love this matchup. The winner of this fight here really is going to be working their way up and really is going to be getting some momentum behind them. Jalin Turner, 3 fights in a row, finishes Joshua Kulibao down on the mat, a guy that's known for his grappling. Turner putting it on him down on the mat. Submits Brock Weaver. Ooh, Brock Weaver, not really sure if he's a UFC caliber fighter. It's kind of my new thing now. I'm just calling fighters out for not really being UFC caliber. Some of you guys may not like it. It might rub you guys the wrong way. Maybe it's, maybe some of you guys are thinking, you're not a UFC caliber fighter, Teller. But, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to be fighting in the UFC. I'm here breaking down these fighters from what I see from a betting perspective and their performances. I don't really think Brock Weaver is a UFC caliber fighter, but I like the fact that Turner went out there and steamrolled him. That's all he could have did. That's all he was supposed to do, and he did that. Now, in the last fight, this is the fight that I'm the most impressed with. The victory over Uros Medic. I am high on Medic. I think that he's a very talented fighter. I think he's going to bounce back from that loss. But the performance that Turner showed in that fight, you see that he's putting in big-time work on his grappling and his wrestling. Now, let's not forget, he lost the match to Matt Frevola. In that fight, Frevola was out wrestling him, taking him down, sitting in his guard, and winning rounds. The hips that I saw in the Uros Medic fight, there's a significant difference in the fighter that Turner was in the Medic fight compared to the Frevola fight. He's only 26 years old. You guys know I harp on the age of fighters because if you guys know, when you're putting in work in the gym, it's a big deal when you're talking about 2 years, 3 years. That time frame, think about that, man. That's every day waking up, going to the gym, sharpening your skills. Your body's in prime shape. You're young. You're a little bit more durable. You're able to grow as a fighter, and that's what Turner's doing right now. And the fact that Turner is sharpening up the takedown defense and the grappling, not only just being able to keep the fight on the feet, but also if you shoot recklessly, he's stuffing you, he's reversing you, and he's hurting you down on the mat. Okay, there's a lot more going on than just trying to keep the fight on the feet. But yeah, up on the feet, he's a dangerous fighter too with the crazy reach, and not only just arm reach, he has crazy leg reach for his kicks and whatnot. He's a bad man, and I like what I've been seeing from him, and that's why I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be taking Jalin Turner to win this fight. I do like Jamie Mullarkey though, and I do think Jamie Mullarkey has the ability to starch anybody. He has real pop in his hands, but again, it's the precision in his shots. This is a guy that if you mess around with Mullarkey, he's a guy he's gonna be putting that scope on your chin. He's gonna be closing the distance, and he's gonna snipe you. All right, so don't be surprised if you see him get a knockout victory here. But overall, I think that Turner has more going for him right now. I think he's a big time athlete with the crazy frame, and the skills are all coming together. I like Jalin Turner to win this fight. Keep an eye on the tarantula. He might try to pull out a tarantula out of his back pocket at the weigh-ins and throw it on his opponent's ear from the side. Scare some people up there. We've seen him do that. If you guys didn't remember, he actually brought a tarantula out one time. I think the UFC wasn't too happy about that. So to be real, you probably won't be seeing that. But Jalin Turner is the pick from a betting perspective. The line is pretty solid right here. Don't sleep on Mullarkey, but Turner, if you're liking him, the lines, it's in range for you to pull the trigger. This is it's an interesting fight. I'm excited for this fight right there. I like Jalin Turner to win. The Prince of War, your boy Greg Hardy, taking on the Polar Bear. We've talked about that nickname here, right? The Polar Bear, Sergey Spivak, one of the more deadly animals. The polar bear, at least on land. Good luck taking out a polar bear. We've had discussions about this. We could do it again. Hop in the comment section. What animal is taking out a polar bear on land? I'm not talking about him swimming underwater where he can't even breathe against a great white shark, or where he's trying to catch his breath at the top of the water and he's getting his legs chewed up. I'm talking about on land, squaring off. He's taking out a tiger. He's taking out a lion. He's taking out grizzly bears and all that. So I could be slipping right now, but you guys comment an animal that can take out a polar bear. back to the fight here. Greg Hardy is a guy that, for the most part, everything I've seen, he's a guy that not a lot of people like. We know his background. He got kicked out of the NFL, dropped from the Cowboys for having the domestic abuse allegations. Of course, he has a different version of how that all went. But one thing that you cannot doubt is that Greg Hardy is a world-class athlete. When you're a Pro Bowl Dallas Cowboy defensive end, you're a Pro Bowler in the NFL, you're a world-class athlete. And the position that he played to, a defensive end, those guys are freaks, man. They're big, they're quick. So do always understand that. Hardy comes into all these fights having the edge for the most part over a lot of fighters when it comes to that explosiveness and that athletic ability. Now, of course, he got into the game late. Let's see if I can pull up even a picture of Hardy. You see Hardy hitting up the footwork here. Got into the game late, of course, but you know what? It's been some time now. It's been some time. I mean, we went from watching Greg Hardy fight on Dana White's Contender Series, starching dudes, to now having a good amount of UFC fights under his belt. Now, he lost 2 fights here in a row. He just recently got knocked out by Tai Tuivasa. That was a fight where he landed a pretty solid punch early, but then he got countered. And his defensive skills were lacking a little bit, man. The head was floating up in the air when he got hit. Didn't have the chin tucked. Didn't have the hands up. Needs to continue to work on that. Needs to get a little bit more comfortable in those striking exchanges. But we've seen that Tai Tuivasa now is a guy that's rising to the top of the division and has that knockout power. Before that, he gets knocked out by Marcin Tybura, a guy that's been thriving in the division as of recently as well. And then he had 2 victories where he finished Maurice Green and Yorgan De Castro. He gets the decision victory. Before that, he loses to Alexander Volkov. That was a fight that he was in way over his head. I mean, the difference of experience that these guys had in that fight, it was pretty much ridiculous that they were even matched up, if you want to know how I feel about that fight. So I think that was a victory in its own right that he even was able to survive and go to a decision there. He's 33 years old. He's been grinding over at American Top Team. He now has 11 professional fights. I've been so back and forth on this fight, guys. That's why I'm a little frustrated right now. I got to make a pick. Which the fact that I'm so back and forth in this fight right now. So if you guys are catching my drift, you guys should already be putting 2 and 2 together. That I feel the value is on Greg Hardy in this fight. But I'm picking Sergey Spivak to win this fight for the reason that you break down tape on Sergey Spivak. This is a guy that he has some polished grappling. This guy, I like the trips that he uses and the clinch. I mean, this guy will rip you down to the mat. He could grapple. He could wear on you down on the mat. And the thing is, I mean, Greg Hardy, although he's explosive, he could throw some heavy leg kicks. He has power in his hands. Could definitely knock anybody out. He has potential to get a knockout over Sergey Spivak here. But the issue is that Sergey Spivak is a big dude and he's a more polished MMA fighter. And we've seen the Prince of War, Greg Hardy, kind of look a little flaky in certain fights. We saw him pull out the asthma spray that one time. We've seen him slow down in fights. We've seen some weird performances by him, and I think if you're messing around like that, you got a guy in Sergey Spivak that's putting in work over at Extreme Couture, and a guy that's just so well-rounded that's going to be pushing the pace. I mean, I truly feel that if Greg Hardy doesn't get that knockout, he could be in some trouble here. And Sergey Spivak's looking like he put on some weight. I'm actually interested to see what he comes in on the scales. I know over here they have him set at 238 from his last fight with Greg Hardy, all the way at the almost at the 265 marker, the top of the division. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Sergey Spivak coming into this fight more at like 245, 250. I'm very interested to see that. He knows Greg Hardy is a big dude, and he could use that weight in those grappling exchanges, and as he tries to wear on Greg Hardy there. On the feet, Spivak can do some things there. He's decent with his hands. Throws a little bit of some kicks here and there, but he's decent there. He's still becoming a more complete fighter day by day. I mean, he is the more complete fighter here. 27 years old, just turned 27. I mean, he was 26 in his last fight. Okay, so keep that in mind. Only 26 years old in his last fight. Victories over Carlos Felipe, Jared Vandera, got that nasty finish on the ground, was working him down on the mat. Outgrappled Alexei Oleinik, went down to the mat with him and all. And then he got knocked out by Tom Aspinall out of the clinch. Tom Aspinall might be the uncrowned champ of the heavyweight division. Don't get mad there. Don't start going crazy in the comment section. I know there's a lot of big Francis Ngannou fans out there. You guys get mad when I say these types of things. But Tom Aspinall, that guy moves like a middleweight, and he's the size of a heavyweight, man. That guy's something special. So Sergey got caught in that fight. I think he's extremely motivated. I think that he comes back, and I favor him to win this match. Although, again, keep in mind, Greg Hardy is no joke, and I was very, very close to picking Greg Hardy to win this fight, and there's potential for Hardy to get a knockout here, or there's potential for us to see another evolved version of Hardy, as he's been putting in that work. Also, do keep in mind, though, that Hardy did have a significant injury, or he had a nasty cut on his finger, so you got to wonder what kind of factor that played in to his training. This fight was supposed to take place about a month or so ago, and fight had to be pushed back. So what kind of training was he getting in with his finger being messed up like that? Now it all healed and whatnot. I mean, he said he couldn't even make a fist when he had that cut. And I think we even have a picture of the cut somewhere. Let's see if I can pull it up for you guys real quick. Is this it here? I don't know if that's it, man, but whatever. Hold on real quick. Let me scroll up 2 more seconds, guys. I just saw the cut. Whatever. It was a pretty nasty cut, so keep an eye on that situation. How was he training? How was he hitting pads, hitting mitts? Obviously, he could have been running anyway. The cardio better be up to par. Otherwise, the polar bear will be mauling him in the later rounds. I got Sergey Spivak to win the fight. But again, with the value probably being on Greg Hardy, Spivak like a minus 220 favorite right now with the comeback and Hardy plus 175, plus 180. You got a couple brewskis flowing through the system. You're down a little bit on the fight card because you didn't reach out to the teller for his official picks. You're chasing some money. You may want to lock in Hardy there if you're chasing. But you might be chasing. You might be chasing some bait there. It might be it's not really real food. You might be snagged by a hook. You might be caught because Spivak is a very complete fighter. And be careful there. Be careful. This is a fight you want to be careful with right there. It's a tricky fight. Very excited to see how it plays out. I got Sergey Spivak, though. Kevin Holland dropping down in weight to the welterweight division. He's taking on Alex Cowboy Oliveira here. Now, remember, Kevin Holland previously fighting up at the middleweight division. He was a guy that really didn't cut any weight. I think that he came in a couple times at 183, had 3 pounds to spare. A lot of people were not really a fan of what he was doing. A lot of people believe if you want to fight, at the pinnacle of the UFC, that you should at least be cutting some weight. You don't see a lot of people pulling off what Frankie Edgar did back in the day, winning the championship, walking around naturally in your weight class. You just don't really see that. And looks like Kevin Holland's looking to shake some things up. He's ran into some turbulence. Realistically, he should have just lost 3 fights in a row. Don't want to ruffle you guys' feathers. I know some of you guys were upset that I was saying at the time that Kyle Dawkins should have won that fight, and he was on his way to winning that fight regardless. You guys remember it was an official play of mine. We had that awkward headbutt situation. But keep in mind, Kyle Dawkins was getting the better of the striking there, landed some solid shots before the headbutt. Kevin Holland was bragging about his takedown defense in the beginning of that fight for the limited amount of time that it did take place. Dawkins kind of clinched up, pushed him against the cage, went for a little takedown there, tried to drop towards the single leg, but Holland did do a good job of stuffing it. But by no means was that enough to show me that the trip that he took over to Hendrickson has changed his game as far as his takedown defense goes. I think that there's still going to be some flaws in his game over there, or in that particular a part of the game. I mean, I just don't feel that you clean things up there that quickly. And let's keep in mind, I mean, he really had some major problems with his takedown defense. We saw it in the Marvin Vettori fight. We saw it in the Derek Brunson fight. I mean, those are 2 fighters that have decent grappling and decent takedowns, so maybe we're being a little harsh on him there. But I don't like the way that he was so accepting of falling down to his back. And I know he has decent jiu-jitsu, trained under Travis Lutter and whatnot, but I mean, you don't really see him pulling off any type of subs down there, especially as of recently. I mean, of course, the Jacare knockout was beautiful off his back, but you don't really want to be banking on doing those types of things. I know he'll be attacking off his back and whatnot, but you're not going to win a lot of fights if you're going down to your back like that. Alex Cowboy Oliveira is a guy that's actually very well-rounded. Yeah, he has beautiful inside trips from in the clinch position. This guy will rip you down to the mat. He's a very physically strong guy. He has good striking. He's a guy that's been around the block for a long time. He definitely makes some mental miscues in there at times. He's blown some fights. There's a lot of fights where he's winning, and then he'll drop the ball. And as of recently, if we talk about some of the fights, I mean, the Nico Price fight, he was up early in that fight, slowed down a little bit. The Randy Brown fight, he was looking good for a second there, and then he made a mistake, got choked out in that weird submission. Got caught in that guillotine choke by Shavkat Rakhmonov. And, the Nicholas Dalby fight, a lot of people thought that he won that fight. So maybe you're seeing a 3-fight winning streak here. And all these fights, though, he performs, man. He shows up. Gunnar Nelson, Gunny's actually going to be fighting here soon. Excited to see Gunny back in the cage. I'm sorry if I'm going off track real quick, though. Gunny will be fighting March 19th. That's coming up against Claudio Silva. I was always a big Gunnar Nelson fan. And 33 years old now, needs to get his butt back in there. But I remember back in the day having a couple of drinks, watching Alex Cowboy Oliveira's debut before I was heading out for the night against Gilbert Burns. Was dominating him in that fight before he got caught in the armbar. Oliveira tends to make these mental miscues in the fights that cost him, but he's just a very talented fighter. If he just was a little bit more grounded in his fights, I think that he could really, he could have been and could be a more productive fighter. Going into this fight, again, the big X factor of Kevin Holland dropping down in weight to the 170-pound division. Here's my thoughts on this, right? So the fact that he's dropping down, he'll be a little bit more of a naturally bigger guy, but now he is doing a little bit of a weight cut here. He's going to lose a little bit of strength, as far as he goes with his physical abilities. He's already lacking in his takedown defense. Does that help him, or does that affect him more in a negative way? I don't know, man. Alex Cowboy Oliveira is a guy that's fought in the lightweight division. Now, of course, he's been fighting in the welterweight division for a long time, but he's a guy that's decently filled out for the division. He has some real strength. I could definitely see Cowboy getting some takedowns in this fight. Now, what happens down there is what I'm intrigued to see play out. Is Holland able to get back up to his feet? Does Cowboy get a little bit too crazy down there and give Holland opportunities to get back up? Some wild scrambles. Does Holland end up getting up and starching Oliveira, or start working him with the striking? And then again, Kevin Holland training under Travis Lutter. He has some jiu-jitsu skills. Does he pull something off? Oliveira does make some mental miscues at times. You see Kevin Holland here is going to have about, a 4.5-inch reach advantage. He's 4 inches taller. I'm interested to see how skinny he looks going into this fight, though. Now, I am a fan of Kevin Holland's. I love the way he talks it up. You guys know I like that. Some of you guys don't like that, but I love the way he talks during his fights, so it makes the fights more fun. This is going to be a cool fight here. You guys been barking for me to give you guys more dogs, and especially on my IG when I'm giving you guys my picks. I break down these fights for how I see them playing out, not so much, just looking at these betting lines and whatnot. And of course, I think that we could favor Kevin Holland in a lot of aspects in this fight. Obviously, he's a real true talent. But you know what? I do see an avenue of victory for Cowboy Oliveira. And although he's a plus 240, plus 225, I think that if he can get some takedowns, and if he could calm down there, get the takedowns, hold the position, sit in the guard of Kevin Holland's and play it safe, he could easily win 2 rounds. Now, that's not necessarily his fighting style. He'll probably get the fight down there and really look to do some wild stuff, and Kevin Holland will probably start throwing some up kicks, and we'll see some wild mumbo-jumbo type of stuff. But you know what? I'm going to pick the dog here. You guys been barking for dogs. I'm going to throw a dog at you. I threw the dog at Kevin Holland the last time, and it prevailed, basically, with Dawkins. I'm throwing the dog at Kevin Holland here again. His takedown defense is very suspect. He's way too accepting of being taken down. We'll see what he could do in those positions, but I'm going to roll with my boy here. The Cowboy, man. The wild man. Alex Cowboy Oliveira, man. This guy, he's something else. He's literally the Brazilian version of Donald Cerrone. which is a trip. But let's see how this fight plays out. That's going to be my pick, Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Edson Jr. Barboza taking on Bryce Mitchell. Thug Nasty. He's been coming out with some recent mixtapes. He's rapping. He's working the farm. He's helping give jumps to people's cars on the side of the street. I mean, he does it all. Bryce Mitchell, what an interesting character he is. But not only is he an interesting character, I mean, this guy has some real legit talent. He has that farm strength. If you guys know what I'm talking about, that's like that Matt Hughes type farm strength. I think it's a real thing. When you grew up working on the farm and you grew up, you know, just lifting stuff and being very active with that type of stuff, I think you get some type of natural physical strength because we see it with some of these guys. And I'm just a believer in it in general anyway, but Bryce Mitchell, although he's not the most physically imposing looking type of guy, I mean, this guy is just, he's extremely strong. We see him, he pushes the pace, he gets a hold of guys, and he rips them down to the mat. We've seen him pull off some very wild submissions. We saw him pull off that twister submission against Matt Sales, I believe it was, the talented boxer. Bryce Mitchell has impressed me, man. I've been impressed with him ever since The Ultimate Fighter. I was a fan of his in the show, and he's, if I'm being honest, he has accomplished maybe more so than what I thought that he was capable of. I thought he could maybe be a decent fighter that could try to hang around the UFC, but I wasn't expecting him to have done what he's done so far since the show. If you guys have been paying attention to what he's been doing, you know, he lost to Brad Katona, who was a lot more polished going into that fight, and then since then took out Tyler Diamond, Bobby Moffitt, the Matt Sales victory, absolutely dominated Charles Rosa on the mat. If you guys remember that fight, he absolutely dominated him there. Just non-stop transitions, and he was just wet blanketing Charles Rosa. Anything Rosa did, Bryce was a step ahead. That was really an impressive performance there, where you saw the jiu-jitsu skills that Bryce has. The Andre Fili victory was a big one. Andre Fili is absolutely no joke. A very underrated fighter, a very talented striker. You can compare him to Barboza in that sense, but Barboza is a whole different animal. I mean, Barboza, one of the more talented strikers that we've ever seen in all of MMA. One of the more nastiest knockouts you'll ever see. You can pull it up right here on his Instagram. I ain't gonna post it because, you know, anything I do like that throughout the years I get in trouble with, so I ain't doing it. But some of the nastiest leg kicks. Look, IG won't even let me show that. What's this over here? We got some Mortal Kombat Edson Barboza stuff. Pretty cool. But yeah, Edson Barboza, man, this guy, nasty Muay Thai striker. Good takedown defense. Comes in very, very physically fit. You know, since his move down to the featherweight division, he's had success. When you really take a look at what he's been doing, he did beat Dan Ige. He won that fight. I'm telling you, break down the tape, rewatch that fight. He should have won that fight. You know, victory over Makwan Americani, victory over Shane Burgos, a phenomenal fight, showed his warrior spirit once again. And then he did get finished by Giga Chikaze, one of the nastiest strikers in the game right now. Now this matchup against Bryce Mitchell is very different than the Giga fight. Giga, you know, a very talented striker. Bryce Mitchell, a guy that's just pushing the envelope. He's getting in your face. He's looking to close the distance. It's a very, very different fight. If I can compare some of his past fights maybe to the Bryce fight, it could be similar to the Justin Gaethje fight. If you remember, Gaethje was closing the distance, chasing him around a little bit. Or maybe the Tony Ferguson fight, where Tony just continuously walked forward. I think that's actually even a better example. The Khabib fight, of course, as well. But the Tony Ferguson fight, Tony was just relentlessly walking forward, and Barboza's trying to circle, and he's on the back foot, and it wears you out, man. It gets you tired when you're on the back foot like that nonstop. And you want to talk about a fighter that's going to be in your face. You're talking about Bryce Mitchell. Bryce is going to be going into this fight. As soon as that bell rings, he's coming forward, and he's coming forward nonstop, and he's on his workhorse. And I don't think that he could hang with Edson Barboza strike for strike in the feet, but I do think that as he's pressuring Barboza, he could land a couple unorthodox type of hybrid straight hooks, those little, you know, loopy shots. I think he could crack Barboza here and there. If he doesn't get caught with the counter strike Barboza and gets put unconscious, you know, in his own right, if he's able to survive that, eventually he gets a hold of Barboza. I think he gets some takedowns in this fight. I think it's kind of hard to doubt Thug Nasty as far as with his grappling right now. I think it's hard to really doubt him not getting a takedown against a lot of guys in the division. There's some real strength going on there. If he gets Barboza down to the mat, I think he could have some success. But also, I think that the longer this fight goes, I edge Thug Nasty more so. When we hit the late second round, the third round, I think that Bryce Mitchell's the guy that's really hanging on Barboza and just trying to overwhelm Barboza. I think Barboza's going to hope that he really inflicts some serious damage on Bryce early, because if he doesn't, it's going to be just really an exhausting fight for Barboza. Now, I'll say this much, right? We'll take one more quick look at this matchup here. Bryce Mitchell, 27. Edson Barboza, 36, with 32 professional fights compared to Bryce Mitchell's 14 fights. We're talking about double the amount of professional experience. Barboza's so game. I could easily understand where a lot of people will be thinking that, the smart money is on Barboza here at dog odds, and that's where the professionals are going and whatnot. But you know what? When you're really breaking down these fights, man, you don't ever just think like that cliche type of way where you're like, oh, this is the way to go. Sometimes you got to follow your gut and your instinct a little bit. And if you guys are watching Bryce Mitchell's fights and you're seeing the performances he's putting on and you see the X factor that he has with the tenacity, the grappling, this guy has something special going for him right now. He's younger. I think he's going into more of the prime of his career, or I know he is. He's hitting a surge in his career as he creeps up to the age of 30, where Barboza still looking good, but he's 36 years old. I just think that Mitchell's going to get a hold of him here, and he's going to score some points down in the mat, and I think that Mitchell wins this fight. From a betting perspective, Bryce Mitchell right around a -150 to -160 favorite. Maybe I would like him more like around that -130 range to come back on Barboza at +130. Maybe I'd like that line tilted down a little bit more so if you're aiming to take Bryce Mitchell. But at the end of the day, so I'm saying, if you feel there's value in Edson Barboza at +130, more power to you. But at the end of the day, I think that Bryce Mitchell's going to get the job done here. That's where I'm leaning. That's where I'm going with my pick on this fight. I think that Bryce Mitchell's going to get it done, and he's going to grab that mic after the fight. He's going to spit out some hot flames, all right? And it's probably going to be about what's going on in the world right now in a variety of ways. So if you like that kind of stuff, you tune in and you listen to the boy Bryce Mitchell hop on the mic and celebrate his victory. I know a lot of you guys are looking to have some action on this upcoming fight card. It's a big one. And if you guys are looking for a solid sports book, in my opinion, the best online sports book out there right now, Bovada.lv, Bovada.lv. You see it there on the side. And if you guys are looking to sign up, reach out to me. Let me give you my referral link. Make sure I give you my specific email. It's not MMA Fortune Teller. It's a different email. Reach out to me. Let me give you that link. If you sign up, deposit $50 or more, I'm giving you an entire weekend of my plays for free. That includes all my UFC picks for Saturday's card, and you'll also get for the entire weekend all my sports betting weekly picks, all my official plays. All right, so that's always there for you guys, and I'll help you navigate your way through the website. If you're new to online sports betting, I'll teach you how everything works, how to get your payouts, how to deposit, all that. I'm here for you guys, all right? The offer is always there for you guys. All right, that takes us to the main event. We got the grudge match. Colby Covington taking on Jorge Masvidal. Best friends turned enemies. This is a very, very intriguing fight. There's a couple X factors and different intangibles that are going on in this fight that could really lead it to be a very interesting matchup here. Jorge Masvidal, although he lost 2 fights in a row, they were both to the champion, Kamaru Usman. Please take note of that. Don't think that he just fell off the track because of that. I mean, Kamaru Usman's no joke. Colby Covington, his 2 losses against the same man as well. So this is a very interesting matchup here. I want to talk about Jorge Masvidal in that last fight against Kamaru Usman. In that first round, I was impressed from the performance he put on. You could tell that he was ready for a fight with a very, very high output. He was taken down. He was fighting off his back every second of the way, worked his way up back to the feet a little bit. I mean, you could tell that he was ready to go 25 minutes nonstop. Now, he was starched. He was put out unconscious. It's not a good thing. He's had 10 months now to recover from that devastating knockout. Another X factor, I told you, there's a lot of X factors you could list off in regards to this matchup. That was a bad knockout. People think that Colby doesn't really carry power, which he's not really known for power. But you know what? He puts out a lot of volume and he has decent boxing. And you get touched up to the jaw a little bit. If you got something going on, with your brain and whatnot, you were just recently concussed. Don't be shocked if you get rattled again. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm calling it. Don't be shocked if Colby gets some type of finish on the feet with this boxing. I want to throw that out there at you guys. For those of you guys that are looking at a potential finish prop for Colby. Obviously, Jorge is a very polished striker. I think on the feet, it should play out very closely. I know that a lot of people look at this fight as if Jorge has the advantage on the feet and Colby has to wrestle. You guys see these films of these guys when they used to train and Colby was the wrestler trying to dominate Jorge, and you look at Jorge like he's the striker. I don't necessarily look at this fight like that. I think that Colby is a very underrated striker, a very, very underrated striker. He's kind of like a Super Saiyan Nate Diaz or something like that, if you catch my drift, in the sense that he puts a high volume on his strikes and doesn't really look to take you out. But he's, in my opinion, he's more polished. His shots are a little bit more crisp and whatnot. And, so keep an eye on the striking matchup to play out very closely. It's not necessarily like if Jorge keeps it on the feet, he has the edge there. Now, Jorge is extremely dangerous, and he's very unorthodox with his strikes, too. If you remember that Darren Till knockout that he had, the way he attacks at times, it's very unorthodox, and it gives his opponents problems. The damage that he did against Nate Diaz at times, if you guys run the tape back on that fight as well, he does these blitzes where he bursts in and he throws kind of not from his hips, he throws out in wide angles, but he makes it work. And without a doubt, I will never question Jorge Masvidal's technique, because if he wants to, he has full capability to have elbows tucked in and have very, very clean technique with the striking. But he likes to implement different types of styles with the striking, man. He's been working on his craft for years and implementing his striking from just, not just a boxing style, but into an MMA type of style that works for him. So keep that in mind. I'm very interested to see those types of exchanges. I think that we could really see a war on the feet there. Now, again, I mentioned the grappling videos of these guys, when they were living together in the living room and they were wrestling, or the videos of them on the mat at the old American Top Team. Without a doubt, Colby Covington was always getting the better of Jorge Masvidal there. I mean, what do you expect, right? Colby Covington is a Division I wrestler. He came over from Oregon. He came over to American Top Team. And, these guys, they have a lot of time, not just on the mat, but it's going to sound kind of weird. I'm going to say it anyway. They have a lot of time on the mat, but also a lot of time together on the couch. If you guys can pull up the videos of them going at it. And I say that in all seriousness, though. They really know each other from that extent, based on just being familiar, man, with clinching up and grappling with each other. It's like if you have one of your boys from back in the day when you were younger or whatever, or if you're still doing that in your 30s or whatever. But, some of my best friends just always going at it, man, having a couple beers, going at it. You know what to expect, man. You know what to expect. That's the best way to put it, man. When you clinch up and you lock up, you're a little bit more familiar with what they bring to the table. You know some of their vulnerabilities. It's funny. When all those videos of them messing around, wrestling in the apartment and whatnot, that was actually an apartment complex that was right across the street from my house. I think I mentioned a couple times how I met Colby Covington one time. He was at the pool with some chick. This was way back in the day before I even really knew who he was. I think I told you guys the story. Saw the wrestling tattoo on his back, the NCAA tattoo, and we chopped it up a little bit. He was a really cool dude, very respectful dude. Nothing like you would even think, of what his persona is now. But back to the fight on the feet. Don't be surprised if Colby gets the better of the striking exchanges too, with Colby also having the ability to control where this fight goes if he wants to try to get some takedowns and whatnot. But expect Jorge to have just as good of a gas tank as Colby's. We know how good Colby's gas tank is. Jorge's going to be ready to go for 5 rounds. At the end of the day, though, Colby's going to be the guy that's a little bit stronger in that clinch. He's going to be the guy that's pushing Jorge up against the cage, maybe getting a couple of takedowns. But then Jorge has that X factor to maybe land a devastating shot and hurt Colby. We've seen Colby hurt in the fifth round before and finish in the fifth round. I got Colby Covington to win this fight. I do. I think that we see a potential stoppage in this fight. A potential stoppage. Maybe this fight doesn't go 5 rounds. Don't be shocked if Colby gets the finish on Jorge either. There's potential for it to go both ways. Again, Jorge was put out in a devastating way just 10 months ago. Let's see how the brain has healed. You see Colby chilling with his wife here. And real quick, before we touch up on the lines, I'll talk about this whole beef and what's going on. I'm not really crazy about what Colby's doing. I don't like that type of stuff. I don't care if you have a problem with somebody or whatever. I don't like the whole thing, reaching out and talking to the wife. It just seems very snakish to me. You were cool with them and you knew the wife and whatnot, and then after the fact, you're messing around like that. I don't like that, to be quite honest. I think it's kind of, I don't know. That's the type of stuff that, some other type of stuff could happen to you. That's a game you don't really play, in my opinion. And I think it's just like the best word I could think of is it's snakish. If you don't like Jorge, you don't mess with Jorge. Be a G about it. Don't mess with him. Don't mess with this girl. Don't talk. Don't talk to none of them. You would want nothing to do with any of his old people or whatever. So I don't really like that type of stuff. And when I actually look at that, it kind of makes me want to see Jorge put him out. I would love to see Jorge starch him. You guys know I'm kind of a Colby fan as well. I enjoy watching him fight. I get excited for his fights. I'm leaning Jorge's way here as far as for who I'm rooting for. I relate to Jorge Masvidal more so. He's a little bit more my type of guy. And we know the stories with Colby. We don't really know the true Colby, who he is and whatnot. Is he like a WWE type of guy? I don't know. The whole thing's a little odd, right? They were best friends and now they hate each other. I think it's something that puts a little bit of shade on both guys, even Jorge too, because how did he become best friends with this kid who he just met in his late 20s? The way I rolled in my circle, my 2 best friends, I got a lot of good friends, my 2 best friends, and even all my real good friends, I've known them since we were kids. I mean, that's just how things were with me. I mean, I have some people and friends I've met throughout the years, but your best friend, and look, you don't even really know the guy, and now look at him, he's mocking you with your ex-wife and this and that, and I think Jorge should have been a little bit more sharp than that. He's a guy that's been around the block. He should know better than that. Just, calling someone my best friend. It sounds like some middle school type stuff there, but they're going to settle it this upcoming weekend. We take a look at the betting line. We got Colby right around a -340 with the comeback on Jorge, right around a +260. I think the value is more so on Jorge Masvidal from a straight up perspective here. And I think you might even be able to get a better line than +260 potentially as this fight takes place. Maybe you grab him at +280. I think there's more value on Jorge there. At the end of the day, I think Colby's the more complete fighter with more variables to take this fight here. Of course, being the wrestling is the main aspect. He should be stronger there. Should be able to get some takedowns. But Jorge will be attacking off his back. He'll be trying to work his way back up to his feet, and he'll be trying to land a big shot up on the feet as well. So Jorge definitely has some elements here too. So again, I think the value is more so on Jorge Masvidal, not so much taking Colby in a parlay, in my opinion, or taking a Colby decision prop, because I think there's all types of things that could happen. Colby might even get a finish himself. So even if he wins the fight, don't be surprised if Colby gets a finish. We talked about that, the damage Jorge took. So a lot of weird things going on in this fight. Cannot wait to see how this fight takes place. And again, I'll say it. I hope Jorge gets a knockout. I'm rooting for Jorge to get a knockout over Colby and to do something like he did to Ben Askren and get in his face, do some wild stuff. That'd be great to see. All right, so my pick is Colby Covington though. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up, just like all of you guys should be doing. Make sure you're wrapping it up. But I'm gonna hit you guys with a fun fact, like always, as we close out this video. But before that, I wanna talk about some serious stuff too. I like to throw in some good messages and whatnot. Make sure you guys are all counting all your blessings that you have in your life. 100% count your blessings. Life could be very quick. Obviously, we see what's going on over in East Europe, over in Ukraine and all that. It's crazy, man. Imagine one day you're living with your family, celebrating, you're drinking, having a great time dancing and whatnot. Next thing you know, you're kissing your kids and wife goodbye and you're sitting there defending your land. It's crazy what's going on. I'm not going to get too much into all that, but I think you guys know how I feel about that situation. Besides that, it's been a crazy week for me. Heard some crazy stories going on over here. I have a relative that lives down the street, visit all the time. Had a crazy story, man. This guy stabbed and killed one of the neighbors in the building, stabbed him to death 2 days ago. This guy was a nutcase. They took all his guns away. He was constantly saying crazy stuff about how he had bed bugs in his bed, always making a scene. The police took his guns away. Well, they didn't take his kitchen knife away. Crazy stuff, man. So, 1 second, and of course I knew the guy too who passed. So, it's like life could be crazy, man. 1 second you're barbecuing up for the whole complex on a Christmas Eve afternoon, and then the next day or a couple months later, you're gone. It's crazy, man. I have another relative that he works up in New York on the by the tri-rail and all that, and crazy story too, man. These 3 kids just yesterday drove off the side of one of the bridges. They flipped off, landed on the tracks, car exploded. All 3 of them are dead. He's cleaning that mess up. So you got what's going on over in Ukraine. Sometimes you think life's just going smooth, and you never know what's around the corner. So count your blessings. I'm serious, man. Every single one of you guys need to look at your wife, look at your girlfriend, look at your family, your kids, take a look at yourself, and just appreciate everything that you got. I'm telling you guys right now, sometimes you guys think you have it bad, and you really don't realize what other people are going through. Or even if you do have it bad, some of you really do have it bad. There's always a brighter day around the corner, so keep your head up and just appreciate anything. Count whatever blessing you could and look up. All right, so I want to say that. And then also, we'll hop over to a fun fact here. Did you know that the color of hippo milk is pink? Hippopotamus produce 2 unique skin secretions, so unique that they're named after the animal Hippus duric acid and its analog Nophoriceric acid. It gives the hippopotamus's sweat a red coloration commonly believed to be blood. So I guess they got pink milk. All right, so that wasn't the best one, but I left you with a better message beforehand. But just know when you're looking at those killer hippopotamuses who kill, here's a fun fact. I think the hippopotamuses kill more people than any other animal. And then they also secrete pink milk. So they kill you, and then they drop a little bit of pink blood on your face as they walk away. All right? Or they go breastfeed one of their babies with their pink blood. If they don't kill the baby already before that, because you guys know, you see it all the time, the hippopotamuses kill all the babies too. Of course, not their own, but they know when it's not their baby. If it's from a rival alpha, they'll kill the baby too. It's another fun fact. All right, so hippopotamuses ain't that nice. All right, what else? Please like this video, man. Subscribe to the channel if you guys have not already. Catch me on all social media platforms. Please, I appreciate all you guys. You guys can keep up to date with me over on Instagram especially, but also Twitter, the MMA Teller. And you guys all have a blessed week, and we'll be definitely seeing each other a lot throughout the fight week, especially towards the weekend. All right, guys? Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.